I'd like to see you try.
Final boss has 3 phases: the Absolution, Mech Suit, and Brevon himself. When you play as Milla, the Brevon phase is not included for some reason. My guess is that it's because Milla doesn't have any attack she could effectively finish with in closing cinematics, but to tell you the truth, who cares? I wanna fight him with Milla, so I hope they'll figure out something next patch. The Absolution phase is same no matter whether you play on normal or hard difficulty. The pattern here is obvious after a few tries, though I will describe it here anyway. Absolution has 4 attacks in total. You already know his charge and jump attack with Blaster from Battle Glacier level. This time he also has a nasty acid cannon attack and missiles loaded with acid. Acid is the biggest pain in the ass here. It splashes everywhere around and remains there for a short time, rendering you almost unable to move around. Now let's look at the pattern now. This time he starts with charge rather than with jump attack. That's supposed to show you that he doesn't give a shit and you're in for a fight. He's facing left and makes one long jump towards your position, after which he hovers up and begins shooting acid loaded missiles, which always align with your vertical level and then throttle in your direction. Important note here, he's slowly moving towards the left border of the battle screen and stops to attack you once he reaches it. When he's finished, you're gonna see him fly to the other side in the background and he will charge at you from the right this time. Note that there are no springs to help you gain the attitude this time, which you doesn't have to care about if you play Milla. As other characters though, you might want to try reach the ceiling at this moment to avoid damage. If you get caught, you can always use Dragon Boost or Wild Kick to counter the charge. Now he will land from the left side, follow up with 2 jumps. The first jump is short and the other one is longer. After that, he hovers again, proceed towards the right side of the battle screen, and along the way, he will fire that acid cannon alone, no missile this time. Then again, you'll see him changing sides in the background and he will charge you from the left side again, land from the right side, and this whole process repeats. So let's recapitulate it again. Charge, long jump, missiles, charge, 2 jumps, and acid cannon. The worst thing to dodge is his missile attack. There's a funny trick you can do to make him skip that attack by making him do the jump to the very edge of the battle screen. That way, he will hover up, find himself on the edge already, and without firing a single missile, he skips right to the charge attack. You can also do this for the acid cannon attack, though I don't exactly approve of these tactics, as it can get tricky to make him do the jump to the edge without getting hit. Plus, it just doesn't look effective. Now, what I do approve is much more effective, just listen and look. When he comes from the right side to make a long jump and then starts to fire missiles at you, you try to be somewhere in the center of the battle screen. How do you know you're at the center? Well, there is a kingdom stone between some weird glass tubes in the middle, so try to stay somewhere nearby. As he lands, you dodge it by jumping and then make him jump to the left. Now start running immediately after that to the right until you reach ceiling. It's so well timed that first missile won't reach the right wall until you are on the wall or ceiling, and also his last missile will be fired before you reach the ceiling, so you are completely safe from any harm. You jump back to the ground somewhere in the middle after he charges below you and you can continue the encounter. Other than that, there's nothing special that would need further guidance in this encounter. Once you learn how to properly dodge missiles, there is little left that could surprise you, especially when you already know his pattern. So let's move to the mech phase. I've found it more fighting the time than the boss himself, as some of his abilities cannot be sometimes dodged depending on circumstances, so you will get hit here, eventually more than once. You can just hope to kill him before he kills you. Mech Suit again has 4 attacks: Blaster, Charge, bouncing, and star explosion, or whatever you want to call it. Although he always opens up with blaster, his pattern is random even on normal difficulty. The only difference here between hard and normal is that on hard he charges much faster. Since there is no pattern to describe, let us focus right away on dodging his attacks. So, blaster attack. Well, your best bet is to just run away from him, hoping the last shot will not get you. Now I'm saying that because it sometimes does get you. The chance is small, it's 1 of the 10, but it can happen, so don't be surprised. When you see it getting onto you, you can try to jump dodge it, but I wouldn't recommend jumping during blaster attack at all. See, those shots will create a column of fire if they land on the ground, and that fire stays here for a moment. It might be useful to have your fire shield here, that you can collect during the ascension phase, with a giant iron cannon in the middle of the screen. Those fire columns are pure fire hazard, and as such, you will be immune to the effect with fire shield up. As Lilac, there is an interesting way of dodging blaster attack. You try to reach ceiling and then dragon boost. This will give you so much speed that it will be very unlikely that the boss will hit you. You have to stay cautious though, as he can switch to another attack pretty much anytime. When you play as Carol, you might want to duck before he starts shooting, and right after he starts, press jump button. That'll make you do a leap and gain a lot of speed very quickly to dodge his shots. Charge attack is obviously dodged by jumping. Now you want to jump towards him. His body as such isn't the element of damage here, it's the flame columns he leaves behind. Again, if you still have your fire shield, you don't have to dodge this attack at all. The reason why I suggest you jumping towards him is that those flames take a while before they die, and if you just jumped up, you might land on them and take damage. As Lilac, it's good to dodge this charge attack while actually jumping the same direction he charges and fluently go into Cyclone, damaging his face. Not only that you will dodge flames he leaves behind the charge, but if he switched to bounce attack now, you won't be hit when being inside his head. If you play Milla, it's super easy to just create a phantom block at the top of your head and go back and forth with it, reflecting his blaster shots back at his face. Yeah, take that! Bounce attack is literally hell to dodge. It gets easier as you waste your lives and continues because you will figure out dimensions of the battle screen and will be able to say how long will it take him to reach your current position once he bounces off the edge. And you do wanna keep track of his bouncing. You just closely observe the sign at the edge of your screen indicating his current position and listen to bounce sounds. You'll soon figure out how to say he bounced off the edge of the battle screen and is coming back. Now the number of bounces is fixed, and although I'm not sure how many times it is right now, you will know after a few tries exactly when he will stop. The duration of the attack is always the same. Now, as I mentioned before, there is a safe spot inside his body that you could exploit, but that's up to you. I do not grow fond of using that. It's convenient playing a Carol that you use Wild Kick to prevent being hit by bounce attack if the situation gets dire. As Milla, you will probably be trying to keep some distance between him and you, and that's fine actually. If you remain something like one screen from him and jump every time it will look like he's charging or bouncing, you will end up jumping over flames in the case of charge, and within the safe space in the case of bounce attack. Final attack, the star explosion, can be easily dodged simply by staying on the ground. If you are very close to him and have no time to get some space between him and you might want to consider ducking. It helps sometimes. After this attack, he always hovers up and switches to blaster attack. Oh, they saved the best for the end. I gotta give him that. Brevon is the worst of all bosses, and even though he only has like 5 attacks and a clear pattern on normal difficulty, you will lose many lives in your first encounter before figuring it out. Hard difficulty matters here a lot, as it changes his pattern from clear to none. His attacks are as follows: Mind Throw, Grab, Shoot, Stab with his dagger, and flying around like an asshole, leaving some weird green, I guess, sonic waves behind. pattern on normal difficulty can be exploited and is as follows: mines, grab, shoot, stab, mines, grab, shoot, stab, and flying. And this repeats all over again. The only difference is in the opening strike at the very beginning of the fight, where he begins with stab and then follows up with mines, grab, shoot, blah blah blah, so on. Also, you will find out that if you reach ceiling, he will try to get you back down by throwing mines, which for some reason explode immediately as they touch the ceiling, so you don't want to spend much time up there. Now, here is an interesting bug I found out. Brevon is currently unable to grab you from the right side. I know it's a bug and as such it will be probably fixed in the upcoming patch, but why don't we have some fun with it while it works, right? So, how can we use this to our advantage? Well, Lilac, for example, has an attack most people don't even know exists. I'd call it a ground cyclone, and you do it by getting some speed, holding down and attacking. In most of the game, it's totally useless attack, though I found a nice use for it here. Since you cannot be grabbed from the right, but Brevon does move onto your position, you can ground cyclone every time he tries to grab you from the right and do some damage to him. There is a perfectly safe opening after he finishes flying and lands on the ground. You can always do some damage here. Other than that, there are not many moments. You can try to jump over his grab and stab attacks and changing direction during the jump, attacking him as you are landing. My very first tactics looked like this, and it can be done over and over again, without yourself getting hit during the whole encounter. To be honest, the absolutely best tactics I figured involves Lilac using her dragon boost to damage Brevon. When Brevon lands after flying phase, you make him land near a wall and then move a little bit towards it to make him jump to the wall. As he's landing from the fly phase, you dragon boost towards the wall and damage him before he jumps and after he stops in midair. You are able to hit him for like 1/3 of his total hit points doing that. It can get tricky to resume common tactics on the ground afterwards though. As Carol, I'd suggest you to hit him with leap attack every once in a while as you are dodging grab and stab attacks. When there is an opening after fly phase, you try to do as much damage as you can with your wild kick attack. You can also use wild kick when he's grabbing or stabbing you. Fighting the final boss on hard difficulty, well, apparently there ain't much to go for really. His pattern seems almost completely random to say the least. The only thing you can rely on is that after something like 6 to 8 regular attacks, he enters the flight mode, which is exactly the same as it is on normal difficulty. That also means you'll get the opening after he lands on the ground, perhaps the only safe opening on hard that there is. Anyway, you already know how to dodge fly attacks and what to do afterwards to beat the shit out of him. What is the real deal here are his regular attacks and the way to dodge them if you don't know what attacks come next. There is a useful tactics I figured. Perhaps you noticed that he shouts from time to time. There are actually 2 shouts in total. One is for grab and the other is for dagger strike. You can react just in time on the one signalizing the dagger strike and jump over him to avoid getting hit. However, you'll find it merely impossible to avoid the grab attack the same way. Nonetheless, that doesn't really have to bother you since we know already his grab attack doesn't hurt. He'll just throw you in the opposite direction, giving you enough momentum to run up the wall on the ceiling and make him waste one of his regular attacks by throwing ceiling mines at you, which you can dodge easily by jumping back down on the ground in the right moment. So, in summary, I recommend you just run back and forth like an asshole and jump each time you hear him shout. This way, you can dodge most combinations of his regular attacks and wait for the fly mode. After he lands, you give him hell, rinse and repeat. That's it. That's how you beat the final boss on hard difficulty. Plus, as you can see, it can be done without losing any of your life points.